I run a small animal foster home in East London, just a short walk from Victoria Park. Nothing fancy. A converted townhouse. A few cages, heat lamps, shelves of medicine I'm technically not allowed to have without a license. I've fostered all kinds of animals that you can't think of. Cats, dogs, rodents, reptiles, even the occasional pygmy hedgehog or exotic bird. You'll be surprised what people abandon in cardboard boxes by the bins. Last night, around 2:30 a.m., I got a knock. Not the doorbell. A knock. Light but deliberate. I peered through the frosted glass and saw nothing. Then I opened the door. At my feet was a wicker gate, not one of the cheap ones. This was old, reinforced with iron bands and tied shut with thick black cord. No note, no person in sight. The street was empty. There were breathing sounds coming from inside, wet and shuddery like a sick dog. I brought it in, of course. I should call it RSCPA, but it's what I do. I take in strays, the sick, the dying, the impossible. I cut the cords. The crate door creaked open on its own. Inside, huddled in the shadows, was, I don't know. It had fur, but only in patches. Pale skin, almost translucent, stretched in over twitchy limbs. Its eyes were enormous, black as ink, with no whites. Its mouth, when it opened, split far too wide, like an injury that never healed right. It didn't move toward me. It didn't growl. Just watched. Silent. I named him Moth, not because it looked like one, but because it had the same fragile wrongness. You ever touch a moth's wing and feel how it disintegrates into powder? That's what its gaze felt like, soft and dry and wrong. The first time I did was try and look up what is actually Moth. No existing animal seems to match his description. Is he a mutant? Some lab experiment that was rescued by a guilt-ridden scientist? A new species that was smuggled from some foreign land? For the first 2 days, Moth didn't eat. Just stay in his crate. Even when the door was left open, the other animals give a newcomer a wide berth like he was a plague. Rodents, rabbits, sugar gliders, and even the resident ferret huddle in the corners of their enclosures. The cats hissed and spat if they got close. Birds squawk and chirp frantically, and even my Jackson, my beagle, whimpered constantly. He wouldn't even come into the same room. On day 3, I found one of my cats, Peanut, a sweet old ginger Tom, stiff as a board behind the fridge. No wounds. Eyes wide open, pupils blown. I thought it was a heart attack. Happens sometimes. I buried him under the old birch tree in my garden, somewhere he used to love taking naps under. But that night, I saw Moth standing in the hallway, just standing, not moving. The light flickered. Every time I looked away and back, it was slightly closer. I locked him in the crate again, tied it shut. Moth didn't resist. This morning, I woke up to find the cord shredded from the inside. The crate was empty. The windows were locked. Doors, too. Nothing was broken. But 3 more animals were gone. Not dead. Gone. As if they'd never existed. Their cages were clean. Empty food bowls. No trace they'd even been there. I went to check Peanut's grave, only to discover he wasn't buried anymore. All was left was his collar, soaked in something that wasn't his blood. Then, this evening, I found the writing on the walls. Tiny etchings, carved into the paint with something sharp. A spiraling language that looks almost like Latin, if Latin were written by something with too many fingers and not enough sense. The words pulse if you stare too long. I tried to take photos. My phone camera glitches every time I pointed at the marks, shows static, or sometimes my face, staring back from the wrong angle. May 20th, Moth is still here. I catch glimpses, in reflections, in doorways. I think he's growing, taller, more sure of himself. He mimics the sound of the other animals he devoured now. The squeak of Coco the Dutch guinea pig, the croak of Kermit, my Pac-Man frog, and Banjo the cockatoo. But they come from behind walls, from the attic, sometimes from inside the vents. I've boarded the animals in a friend's shelter for now. They're safe, I think, but I'm not leaving. Not yet. I need to know what thing is, why it came here, why it chose me, and maybe, if I'm honest, Part of me wants to see what happens when it decides I'm next. May 21st. I haven't slept. Moth no longer hides. He walks freely through the house, silent, graceful in its grotesquerie. The floors don't creak under its weight, though it must be heavier now. His limbs now longer too. Or maybe I'm imagining it. I tried to follow him last night. He drifted into the basement, a room I rarely use except to store feed and bedding. It stood facing the far wall for nearly 20 minutes, perfectly still. Then he raised his hand, placed it against concrete, and the wall opened, not physically. Nothing broke or crumbled, but it changed. The surface seemed to ripple, like stone remembering how to become liquid. I didn't go closer. I couldn't. My legs locked up. I think Moth knew I was watching him. I felt his eyes on me, even though he never turned. This morning, I found a new mark carved into the ceiling above my bed, a perfect circle filled with concentric rings. The outermost ones had little notches. Teeth? Stars? I don't know. When I reached up to touch it, it was warm. It vibrated under my fingers like a heartbeat. There's another thing. The mirrors. They don't work right anymore. My reflection lags like a bad internet feed. Sometimes it moves when I don't. Once it smiled. I didn't. I covered every mirror in the house. I spoke to Dr. Lemieux, a clinical animal psychologist, an old friend who helped me in the past multiple times. She didn't laugh. She just went quiet, told me to burn the crate and leave the house, said something about threshold entities and non-local parasites. I asked what she meant. She said, they don't come from somewhere. They come from when. I know what this means. I didn't tell her about the dreams. Last night, I dreamed I was underground, somewhere vast and black. I could hear breathing, not from one source, but many, hundreds, thousands, all inhaling together. Moth was there, but not alone. Dozens of shapes just like him, hunched and watching. They whispered in a language that made my teeth ache. I woke up with bleeding gums. Still, I can't bring myself to leave. I check the cameras, even they now glitch. I make notes, diagrams. I've sketched Moth 27 times, each one more detailed than the last. Too detailed. Some of the sketches show things I haven't seen with my eyes, things I'm not sure I should see. But here's the worst part. I think it's teaching me. I've started to understand the symbols. Not all of them, but some. Like how the spiral always points to a location. How certain shapes mean entry, others mean sacrifice. And one, drawn on the inside of my front door this morning, means welcome.